no adaptations whatsoever. That's not what it was designed for. People are qualifying with conditions like drug misuse, ADHD, obesity. The assessment system surely can't have been designed with that intention, and we cannot allow it to continue for a moment longer. And third, we need to think about what support actually helps people, because at its best, a welfare system acts like a trampoline. It cushions your fall and it propels you back onto your feet. It should not act like a giant net that engulfs you and makes it almost impossible to climb out. Up and down the country, people with really challenging health conditions do extraordinary things. They go to work, they raise families, they set up businesses. So we need to ask, why are some people able to do that, but not others? What skills and support do they need? Giving someone, for example, 8 weeks of retraining and physiotherapy and getting them back into work is a better solution for everyone than allowing them to languish on benefits. And doing that before they fall out of the workforce is even better. We live in a totally different world from the one that we did 30 years ago. Even people who are housebound can now contribute and make use of their talent. We should be aiming for everybody to support themselves as far as they are able, while providing support for those who cannot. But to do this, we will have to win arguments. Arguments that too many in politics have forgotten how to make. Like a life of work being better than one dependent on the state. Not just better for society, although we believe that too, but actually better for the soul. That it feels better to contribute and enjoy the freedom that comes with paying your own way. Too many young people are growing up not knowing that. They think that a life on benefits is an alternative to working. They think that isolating themselves at home is okay because starting a job feels daunting. We have to show them a better way. We need to win the argument that an ever more generous welfare budget isn't kind, it's cruel. It locks people out of opportunity. It puts support for those who genuinely need it at risk. Every other party thinks the public want more welfare, but I think people have more common sense than that. I think that they can see the damage it's doing to our country. Britain needs politicians who will tell the truth about the challenges facing the country. That's the only way to get the real change we need. We need to win the argument that personal responsibility matters, that if you can support yourself, you should, that if you want a better phone or a new car or a bigger house, you need to earn that. You should not expect someone else working hard to pay for yours as well as theirs. And we need to bring back the idea of saving for a rainy day. That's almost lost now. If you think that the state is going to bail you out every time, why would you make sacrifices? Why would you put money away, especially if Rachel Reeves is coming for your savings, your pension, or your family home? And finally, we need to win the argument that the state shouldn't be the first place you go for support, because the state can never do better than what families and communities should do. It is no wonder that our welfare bill is rising in an age when family structures are fraying and the number of people volunteering has fallen off a cliff. We should be backing the makers, rewarding the people getting up every morning, working hard to build our country. This is about getting the welfare bill down, but it's also about what we believe the good life looks like. Freedom, security, optimism. Only the Conservatives will stand up for these values and unlock the talent, dignity, and purpose of millions left behind. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to move on to the media Q&A. And first up is Car Dinen from ITV.
Thank you very much. You've just criticised the smaller opposition parties for the way that they voted last week. Didn't you vote the same way?
I was talking about the reasoned amendment. We voted against the bill, but the reasoned amendment was actually for more benefits. They did the same thing yesterday, actually. We had amendments to tighten up the welfare system, and they were voting against that. They want more benefits. We are the only party. We are the only party that is serious about Britain living within its means and getting that welfare budget down. Rob Powell from Sky.
Thank you. You've argued today that the country is at risk of becoming a welfare state with an economy attached. The biggest part of the welfare budget is obviously the state pension. The OBR said this week that in the long run that's unsustainable. So in the spirit of living within our means and being a politician that tells the truth, do you agree and should it be reviewed?
We need to look at where the money is going. The immediate problem we can fix right now is around working age benefits. Those pensions are not working age benefits. If we get more people into work, that will help solve the general problem of growth. There are too many people who are out of work. We are bringing in more people from abroad, which is straining the system. That's where we need to start. And that's why we're focused on looking at what we can do to bring down health and disability benefits, which currently are more than what we spend on defence. The triple lock is Conservative policy. We brought in that policy. Right now, we think that the area to focus on is health and disability benefits. There are too many people out of work. We have 28 million people working to support another 28 million who are out of work or in the public sector. Those numbers have to change. Getting people into work is what Conservatives are about. It is what we did before. We reduced the number of workless households to record lows, and that started climbing up again after COVID. Now we are seeing 3,000 people a day claiming out of work sickness benefits. That's just under Labour. That's 1,000 more than it was a year ago. This is crazy. That's the first place to start fixing things. Evan Murray, BBC.
Hi there. You've lost your second former cabinet minister in less than a week. What does that tell us about the direction of the Conservative Party under your leadership?
What it tells people is what I'm saying in this speech, that the Conservative Party is the only party that wants to live within its means. And if there are people who want more welfare and higher taxes and more spend, they are very welcome to go to those parties that are offering that. But we are the Conservative Party. And if there are people who are not Conservatives, people who have probably been holding us back for a long time, then they should go to other parties that fit in with their values. We are a party of living within our means. Chris Hope, GB News.
Chris Hope, GB News. The benefits bill spiraled on your government's watch, didn't it, Kemi Badenoch? Will you apologise for saying you got it wrong, like as you have done on immigration? And just that question about Sir Jake Berry and David Jones jumping ship to reform UK, what has Nigel Farage got that you haven't?
Right. So I knew you were going to ask that question, Chris. I thought that Evan had spiked you. But first of all, we brought the deficit down every year until the pandemic. The pandemic was not something the Conservatives did. That was a global problem. And I can tell you that if Labour or even Reform had been in charge during the pandemic, we would be in a much worse situation than we are now. So we brought that down. As I said, we brought the number of workless households down. Worklessness kills. It completely destroys life chances for children. That is something that only we fixed, and we will fix it again. We do not want to see this problem coming back. And on the point about David Jones, who actually, I remember you reporting that he joined in January. What's interesting, that he defected in January, what's interesting is that they're having to restate the story again. What Nigel Farage has got that I haven't got is telling people whatever it is they want to hear. If people want the truth, they should come to the Conservatives. That's what I'm for. Chris Smith of The Times.
Thank you. You talk about being unsustainable. 1 in 4 people class themselves disabled. You could also say, you know, what 1 in 10 working age people are claiming sickness benefits. Where do you draw the line? What conditions shouldn't we be giving for? How many of those people actually should be qualifying under a reasonable system? And just on Sir Jake Berry, is it a worry for you that sort of ambitious people on the right think reform is the place to go if they want to get on?
So on the benefits, we need to look at what the system was designed for and what we can afford. That's where we need to start from. Otherwise, we're going to bankrupt ourselves. And it does not make sense the tennis elbow gets you benefits, the constipation or acne gets you benefits. Let's start from there. And the big thing we can do is go back to in-person assessments. That's what changed during COVID. We had remote assessments, but that has allowed a lot of people to exploit the system. That's what those sickfluencers are doing, telling people what to say. You ring up, you tell them you're too anxious to get your assessment, and then you will immediately, without any medical evidence at all, get benefits. That's where we need to crack down on. If we can solve those problems first and get more people back into work, we're going to see outsized benefits from the tax take, from less burdens on the state. That's really where we need to start from. And on the point about people defecting, this is something which I say again and again, that there are a lot of people who come into politics just to play the game of politics. And they will follow polls and defect wherever they can, like they do in banana republics, to wherever they think that they can win. We have to do more than win. We have to be ready with a plan. This is what Labour got wrong. They had no plan. They were just focused on the election. And now they're in government and they're completely at sea. They cannot deliver anything. All of the people who are not interested in coming up with a proper policy plan and just want to jump ship are welcome to do so, because when the time comes at the next general election, the public are going to be looking for a serious, credible alternative. We are the only serious, credible alternative. And finally, I have Dan Martin from The Telegraph.
Hi. Last week, Boris Johnson said that the way to deal with the threat from reform was to ignore them. You've been attacking Nigel Farage now, and you have been for a while, and it's not helping your polling. Do you think you should listen to him?
Well, if you ask me a question about Nigel Farage, I will answer it. I'm not Keir Starmer, I answer questions. But I think if you want to take the advice, I think it's the media that needs to take Boris Johnson's advice. It's the media that spends most of its time talking about Nigel Farage. There is a lot of work that we're doing in Parliament. We have got Keir Starmer to U-turn on grooming gangs, on the winter fuel payment. We ran a very vigorous campaign. We are doing the work that the people elected us to do, making sure that they do not destroy this country. I'm the only person who is talking about how we bring the cost down. We are spending well above our means, and we've got to bring that back within our means. Thank you. I think that was the last question that I had, but I'm happy to talk afterwards. But thank you very much, Andy. can't just expect them just to take on the risk on its own. So making sure that people are skilled up, making sure that we have the tools in place to stop reoffending, making sure that corporations actually understand the benefits that they can get, but also actually making sure that the jobs are there in the first place. If the corporations aren't hiring the people who aren't ex-offenders, it's going to be even harder to deal with the, to get the ex-offenders into work. So it's all connected, it's all systemic. Let's start with actually making sure that the jobs are there. Let's not immediately rush to bring people from outside the country to fill jobs that perhaps rehabilitated offenders can fill as well.
Very good. Questions over here. I think we've got right at the back corner there, sneaking. We'll take two at once now. I wasn't meaning you, but you go for it, and then we'll go after you.
Hi, I'm Felix from the charity Children Heard and Seen. You mentioned in your speech about Labour choosing not to fix problems. 12 months ago, the Labour government made a welcome and groundbreaking commitment to, in their manifesto, to identify and support children who have a parent in prison, and that's what Children Heard and Seen does. Currently, there's no statutory support for these children, despite the well-documented welfare harms that a parent going to prison can have. And that contributes, obviously, to what you mentioned about 1 million young people not being in education or employment. The work we do has shown the life-changing impact that simple, targeted emotional support can have on education and employment outcomes for young people. Are you and the Conservative Party able to hold the government to account on their commitment to ensure that children with a parent in prison get the support they need to break this cycle of intergenerational harm?
Thank you. So I haven't seen your report, but it sounds like a very good. It sounds like a very good way to help stem some of these issues. If a government or if a party makes promises before an election, they do need to keep to them. If they don't, those are the things that break trust in politics. A lot of people are very disillusioned with politics and going to protest parties because of broken promises. There are things that we did, and I do acknowledge that, which we said we would do, the things we said, which we didn't do, and that creates some of that apathy. So yes, I'd be delighted to hold them to account on their promises and also to read the report. I do think that the family you're born into is probably the biggest determinant of where you're going to end up in life. So we want more strong, stable families.
Those interested on those subjects, we are launching a paper on Monday that looks at the pupil premium, which makes no account of that kind of issue as well. Back corner, yeah.
Hi, I'm Evan John. I'm from the national disability charity Sense. So you've painted a picture of a welfare system that is really easy to access, but I think many disabled people would find this is utterly divorced from the reality they face on a day-to-day basis. Our research has shown that 50% of disabled people with complex needs who go through benefits assessment find it humiliating. So what are you going to do to make sure that disabled people don't feel like criminals while trying to access the support that helps them to lead independent lives and often enables them to work?
Well, I think those two problems are intertwined. If you have many people who shouldn't be claiming benefits using the system, that means that there are fewer resources for those who actually need to use the system. So let's start there. If you have a support worker who has to deal with a much bigger caseload, it's going to be harder for them to support those people who can't help themselves. That's where I would start in terms of dealing with that problem. We know that the system is not easy for those with the most challenging disabilities. But right now, we are seeing a huge increase in the number of people claiming benefits for low-level conditions. That cannot be helping. We've got to sort that out as well.
Do you think, Kemi, as part of that, you would think about splitting the difference between mental health conditions and physical ill health conditions as part of the welfare?
I think so. We understandably had a lot of pressure to look at mental health as in the same way as we look at physical health. But what we're seeing is that nothing's improved. Things have not improved. In fact, they're getting worse, and there's more pressure on the system. And I don't think there was anything wrong in testing out that hypothesis. But we have to be able to say, we've tried this, it's not working, let's do something different. One of the problems in politics is this belief that because something is in place, it must never be touched, and all we can do is add more and more. We need to start talking about reform of the system. The problems we have in 2025 are very different from the problems we saw and fixed between 2010 and 2019. So what we're going to do with our time in opposition is actually have this policy renewal program where we're looking at everything fresh. We're not trying to recreate the past or go back to what used to be. We need to start focusing on the future. There are many other parties who think that they can go back to what used to be. That's never happened before. We've got to start talking about what young people can have for the future. How do we deal with the future of work when AI is coming? There was a really great op-ed by James Kanagasorian in the Times today that AI can do to what we call white-collar jobs, what a lot of the information age did to blue-collar jobs. We've got to fix that. We cannot have a situation where fewer and fewer people are in work and making the money and getting the benefits, and a larger cohort of people are unable to access work. And that's one of the things that our policy renewal programme will be looking at.
Thank you. Further questions? There's a hand right at the back there, sorry.
Hello, I'm Anne Fennell from Mothers at Home Matter. Nearly half of all families are on universal credit, and these are working families. And this is mainly because our tax system doesn't support the family in any way. There is no acknowledgement of any dependence on an income. So it's better to be on two lower incomes and claim credit, and it's better in some cases to be apart than to be together. And you talked about stable families. How will the Conservatives address this and support families, and particularly at a time when some women want to take time away to look after their families, but it's become so difficult because of our tax system and because there's no support?
I think that the last point you've made, that because of the tax system, is quite right. And the tax system creates lots of perverse outcomes. We do need to look at that. I think we've tried looking at policies to help people stay together, looking at marriage taxes, but they've never really made a huge impact in terms of solving this problem. And this is why I say it is both economic and cultural as well. Making sure that people go into relationships with the intention to stay there for long periods of time and not assuming that the state will fix whatever goes wrong will help. Making sure, for example, that childcare is not as ridiculously expensive as it is. Nursery fees are now about £24,000 a year. I was so grateful when my 5-year-old left nursery because I suddenly felt so much wealthier than I had been before. It's very expensive, even with the support that we brought in, 30 hours free childcare. This was a Conservative policy. We need to look again at how we encourage more providers to spring up. That will help those women who do want to go into the workplace. It'll make it cheaper for those who just want to use it for a shorter period of time. But I think we need to look beyond the tax system as well. And this is an area where I think just as an entire political class, we have got rusty at talking about family. Everybody feels that they don't want to moralize, they don't want to be judgmental, we don't want to criticize lifestyles, we don't want to criticize people's personal choices, but we can see things that are going wrong. And we need to create a space for us to have honest conversations about how certain choices can leave people in much worse situations than if they had done something differently. And I think all of that has to be looked at in the round.
Very good. We've got time for one more question I'm hearing in my ear, okay, from the back. Anyone want to go for the final question? If not, I've got one. Matthew at the back.
Yeah, one of the main gateways, it seems to me, in terms of entrance into the welfare space is through GPs. The CSJ recently did some polling that suggested 83% of GPs think that medical health in particular is being over-medicalised. I wondered, one, whether you would agree with them. It feels to me, in terms of some of the comments about less serious mental health situations are being over-medicalised. And the second part of that question is, do you think GPs are best placed to be those gateways in terms of fit notes and things like that?
There's a big shout of no on this side of the room. I'm not in a position to make that judgment. I don't know enough about how GPs work to be able to say so. But I think if GPs are saying that there is over-medicalisation taking place, then we should listen to them. They will know what they are talking about. Something clearly is happening where we're just seeing a huge increase in demand for so many sort of levels of support. And we can't afford it. So we have to structure our economy and our safety net, our welfare system, according to our means. And we are willing, as Conservative Party, to look at every potential solution in order to bring those costs down and make sure people have the right support, but also that those who are in the system who shouldn't be are taken out. That is where our growth will come from. That will help solve our productivity problem. We have a productivity problem in the UK compared to many other countries. We need to look at getting lots of people who are off work back into work, and many things after that will fix themselves.
Well, thank you, Kemi. On behalf of everyone that's round the applause, thank you so much for doing that. That concludes it then. For those that want an ice lolly, we do have a freezer full of them if the staff haven't eaten. And thank you again to you for being here, Kemi. Thank you. Thanks.
This is Evelyn Murray. Yeah.
So I'll just have all that CSJ in the background.
I think yeah, they want the flags in it. I remember them saying so. But if they can't get, I think we can move it. It's fine.
Can't get them both.
No worries. I don't know if it's that big a deal.
Where are you guys? Do you want to do it in front of here?
Yeah.
I'll clear the folks and we can decide.
Is that all right? Yeah. Thanks.
Could we?
Excuse me.
Sorry?
Flag?
Yeah.
They come in a bit.
We'll do it in a second. I'm just going to put that one in this one. We'll come back and talk.
This is quite an experience. I'm also getting to it's the best picture. I look forward to the best pictures of the day now. I was snapping. It's so hot in here. Oh no, so you were dashing from somewhere. Oh, nightmare. Oh well. It's all in the cab now.